I've been a-grubbing on a little farm on the flat and windy plains. I've been a-listening to the hungry cattle bawl. I'm gonna pack my wife and kids, I'm gonna hit that western road. I'm gonna hit that Oregon Trail this coming fall. I'm gonna hit that Oregon Trail this coming fall. Hit that Oregon Trail this coming fall, where the good rain falls a-plenty and the crops and orchards grow. I'm gonna hit that Oregon Trail this coming fall.
Well, I'm at this horse auction on the outskirts of Kansas City. There are loads of people around here wearing cowboy hats and pointy boots and all the other Western gear. You really can't believe you're on the edge of a town. It's really hot this evening, even though it's only just the first week of May. There are loads of beetles flying around. We call them May bugs in England. They call them June bugs over here, even though it is May. And they just sort of fly around like mad things, like kamikaze things that fly into lights, and then they land on the floor and they sort of crunch underfoot as you walk around. I've been in America a week now, and I must have looked at scores of horses. Just loads of them. Some of them have been right, but the people have been asking just too much money. And some have been pretty rank, but the price has been right. But I've got to buy horses soon, and I really ought to buy them tonight. But an auction, always a dangerous place to try and buy horses. I always say if you shake hands with a horse dealer, you should count your fingers afterwards. But there are lots of suitable animals here. I hope the prices are right, and that the animals that I do wind up buying will be up to the 2,000-mile, 5-month journey I'm planning for them. I am asking a lot, and to buy a horse just on what it looks like in a ring is quite a risk. I've got to get them, though, because I really ought to set out by next Sunday. If I leave it too late, then I run the risk of running into the snow in the mountains in Oregon. There's also a wagon train which has left ahead of me, and it would be very nice to catch up and travel with them for a while. So the gap is getting wider between them and me all the time. Tonight, I really ought to make a decision about buying the horses. Hello. I'm riding from Kansas City to Oregon along the Oregon Trail with 2 horses. Mm-hmm. Do you do a fair amount of trail riding?
Some. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what sort of problems you think I'm going to expect over the next 2,000 miles and
Are you going to have
5 months?
anybody backing you up?
No, just me and a pack horse.
Well, fences, cars. You're not going to ride cross country. You can't because of the fences.
It's going to be mostly on county roads.
Yeah. Have you got something to sleep in?
Tent.
You got a gun?
No.
Better take a gun.
Why?
Somebody might try to rob you or steal your animals, or you might have to shoot a snake.
Take a gun. I'm English. I'm not sure I can get a license.
Who's got a license?
I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't travel across there without a gun. I'd have a rifle and a scabbard underneath me, and I'd be carrying a 45 on my
I'd have a 45 anyway.
You think I ought to have a gun?
Yeah.
I would have a gun.
Yes, I would.
Definitely would.
Why? Why?
Well,
What if some of these young guys come out of town there that doped up, comes out of town some night and goes robbing?
Me too, I'd have a dog.
A dog?
Oh, yeah.
You think a dog would be better than a gun?
Oh, no, I'd have both. I seen old John Wayne. He's over there sleeping. That dog starts growling. He knows
That's
something's
right.
going on.
You mean John Wayne the cowboy?
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that amazes me about John Wayne the cowboy is the way that he's able to... He only carries 2 little saddlebags, and he seems to have all that gear with him. You know, he has enough bullets to take on the whole of the. He kills about 40 people and a shovel to dig the grave of his best friend.
Man, I tell you, old John Wayne, he's American cowboys' hero.
You're trying to remember all them cowboy songs.
I know, and I have trouble with the words sometimes.
What about Blood on the Saddle? Do you like that song?
Blood on the
Tex
Saddle?
Ritter, yeah.
Blood on the Saddle.
There was blood on the saddle.
Is that an English song?
No, it's Tex Ritter, for God's sake. He's one of your guys.
I did. Do you know it, Jerry?
I
There
never
was
heard that.
blood all around. It's a very depressing song. It goes, there was blood on the saddle, there was blood all around, and there was a great big puddle of blood on the ground. Well, I've made my decision. I bought 2 horses. These 2 here. 2 geldings, both males, both about 10 years old. No mares this time. Last time I bought mares, one of them dropped a foal on me halfway through the trip, so no repeats of that, I hope. I paid just over $2,500 for them, for the 2 of them, which by English standards isn't bad for horses. I should think it's probably about $500 more than I needed, but I think the guys knew that I wanted these horses. This one, he's called Rocky. He's a little quarter horse shaped horse, mostly brown with a bit of with a fair amount of white legs, white hooves, an athletic little animal. I like the look of him. He's got 1 brown eye and 1 walleye. That would knock his value down a bit in the UK. Very strange looking face. He's got a white face and a short tail which is just flicking all the time. Very busy tail, possibly because of the flies. But the other one I bought is called Continental. Strange name for a horse. Apparently he was one of a pair. One was called Continental and one was called Cadillac. He's an even stranger colour than Rocky. He's basically what they call an Appaloosa. He's a sort of, well, he's got a lovely golden mane and golden tail, and the rest of his body is just sort of hodgepodge of fawns and browns and whites all over him. He's quite a tall horse, a sort of gangly horse, bigger than Rocky, but somehow he doesn't look quite as strong as Rocky. He's obviously the dominant one. He just bared his teeth at Rocky. I hope that doesn't augur for bad things to come. So, one way or another, I've got my horses. I hope they get me there. This is the beginning of the Oregon Trail. It's a place called Independence Landing. The Missouri River here is about 50 yards wide. It's a sort of greasy brown river flowing past. It's where the emigrants came along on paddle steamers and they were disembarked here. They just rammed the paddle steamers up on the beach and then unloaded all the wagons and all the gear. And of course, because they made them much lighter, they could then float them off again. So this is where the Oregon Trail really started, Independence Landing. It's hard to imagine what it would have been like 150 years ago here. Upstream of me now, there's a sewage works and I can smell that. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the colour of the water at all. And looming over this Independence Landing now is a huge... Steady, Rocky. There's a huge cement works. Stand up. And everything's sort of slightly dusty here. So it's rather difficult to imagine what this would have been like, a potentially virgin territory 150 years ago. Although I know what it must have felt like for those immigrants. To some extent, you know, that they have got that huge journey in front of them, so have I. The Doubts, I've got the mountains, I've got the plains, I've got desert. 2,000 miles, 5 months away from my family. I've got my 2 horses, Rocky and this other one, Continental, a big, brawny dope of a horse. The name Continental, I really don't like it. I think I've decided to call him Roland. I had a friend called Roland who was big and brawny and kind and easygoing. I hope that's what this horse will be like. Stand up, stand. Not at the moment though, they're willing to go. It's 5:30 in the morning. On a Sunday morning. I'm told that Sunday morning is a good time to travel through the city, and that's my snag. I've got 40 miles of city to get through. I'm sort of swinging around through the suburbs. Actually, funny enough, I did have a brief skirmish with the Kansas City police because they said that in order to go through the city, I needed a parade permit, a $1 million bond, and a shovel to clear up any mess that these 2 guys might make behind them. I did manage to persuade the policeman that 2 horses doesn't really make a parade, but he was adamant on the shovel. He really was convinced that I needed to take a shovel with me to clear up any mess. I have to say I haven't got a shovel, so they won't be making any mess, I'm sure they won't, not over the next 2 days. Whoa! Stand, Rocky. Stand. Don't know which one of you 2 is going to be easier to deal with. Okay. Well, Independence Landing to Oregon, 2,200 miles, something like that, 2,000 miles. Let's go. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. This first mile of the trip goes through the cement works, and there's a railway just down to the right of us. Strange noises the grinding machinery makes. Doesn't seem to be bothering Rocky that much. The other horse, Roland, doesn't seem to, he seems a little bit more shaken up by it. But Rocky's just steadily walking on past, ignoring all these bizarre sounds. I guess I've done 10 miles this morning. It's now 12 o'clock and it is just as hot can be. I really don't know what the temperature is, but it's really rather unpleasant. Rocky is sweating like a pig, sweating like a horse. Here come two cyclists. Hello! Looking curiously at my microphone. Strangely enough, the Americans seem quite courteous towards horses generally. They slow down for us, they generally behave pretty well. There's a guy slowing down behind us now to let two cars come past the other way. This traffic here is nothing compared to what I've been through. I've been sort of underneath and tried to negotiate the sort of almost a spaghetti junction type place with roadworks, all sorts of things going on. Guy slammed on his anchors there, don't know if you heard that. Just shows how traumatic it is really for the horses. Well, I'm in a park on foot. I've tied the horses up. Before I started on this trip, the horses and I were staying at this riding stables just near the city. It's a sort of dude ranch type place, and the people there had got the contract for rounding up. It's really brambly. Stray animals, stray cattle, which got loose in the park. And I was just travelling across with the horses, and I saw one of the blokes, a chap called Chuck, riding a horse who they call Gedham. Good name for a cow pony, that. Chap called Chuck, just clattering down the road. And I said, I was really shocked to see him, you know, because as you're riding horses through cities, you don't expect to see anybody else on a horse. And I said, what's going on? He said that they were out here trying to find these two stray cattle, which had disappeared into this sort of big lump of, it's just a rough piece of woodland in the middle of the city. It's a park. So I've tied up the horses just by the playground and just followed where Chuck disappeared into this piece of scrubland down here somewhere. He told me that the two cows had escaped from a hamburger joint, was having sort of promotional thing. And these two cows escaped and then got into the city. So him and Ron and Benny have come in here on the horses to see if they can round up these cows. Just a couple of cows just down to the right of us, about 50 yards away through the trees, but they might as well be bloody miles away.
Back. Over here! Where you at? Straight ahead, turn to the right.
Chucky's just going up on a dun horse. Just been going off to the right. They're heading for a couple of suburban gardens now up here. Dog's going mad.
Yeah, anything.
We're in a sort of muddy stream bed here. Two guys on horses with ropes around, and the cow keeps on falling back into the stream. What is supposedly a pretty glamorous job is actually pretty gross. She's having a really rotten time. Just because some stupid PR man wanted to have a few cows at his hamburger joint. Bloody thing came flying right at us. Well, Chuck and Ron and Benny, with the help of 3 horses, did manage to rope the cows and get them back into a trailer, and the cows have now gone off. I understand the bill for that little escapade, about 3 hours work for 3 men, 3 horses, will be about $1,000. Not bad money. Apparently they get one of those jobs a month or thereabouts. You know, kids let cattle out of the back of trailers for a stunt or just a joke, or crashes. Apparently once they had pigs, herd of pigs, a lorry turned over loaded with pigs, and they had to go and round up the pigs. So there were these cowboys trying to rope pigs, which is really hard because pigs have got terribly short necks. Cows are much easier. I must say that the cows have had a pretty bad ordeal. I think one of them has lost an eye, and they've certainly got rope burns all over their bodies, and they're pretty exhausted and stressed up. Don't know, it's just stupidity of somebody deciding that they want to do a publicity stunt at a hamburger joint with 2 cows. It's just tasteless anyway. You know, most people don't want to know about hamburgers and where they come from. I mean, McDonald's adverts have hamburgers coming from a hamburger patch. I'm just on my way back now to the playground to see if my horses are still there, see if Rocky and Roland are still there. I hope they are. I'm sure they will be. Be all right. The guys also told me that I've been walking through poison ivy, so I'm going to find out the hard way whether I'm allergic to poison ivy. Apparently it come up in a big sort of red rash. And the other thing they say, there's a damn good chance that I'm going to get ticks, because they say this sort of area is just infested with ticks. So they suggest I have a good inspection tonight, and I am filthy and soaking wet. They told me that over here there's a washroom just by the playground, and they're going over there as well to tidy up before they head off back to their ranch. So at least I'll be able to get clean, because I'm filthy. Absolutely filthy. Hey guys.
Hey dude.
What's the remedy for ticks then?
Ticks?
Yeah?
You just pull the bastards off.
Yeah, you leave the heads in then?
No, you take them out.
But I thought if you just pull the bastards off, then the heads stay in.
No, well, you back them off
It's
with a
infected.
cigarette butt. Your armpit?
Yeah.
How big is he, little bastard?
He's just a little bastard at the moment.
Trent, fire up a cigarette and pull this tick off this man. What you do is you take a cigarette, just put it to the back of the tick on its, and he'll back right off.
And that surprises him, does it?
He freaks out, man. He jumps off. He's on fire, man.
Otherwise, just pull it. I just pull it.
Well, he'll back off and you can grab him. But if you got a great big one, you can pull the whole bastard. That's how we do it on horses.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well, after 40 miles of the city, I've at last found my way out into the countryside. It's quite nice scenery. It's sort of gently rolling, hot, humid. Strange thing is that it's so humid that you can't dry clothes. I can't believe, here we are in sort of 85 degrees, and you wash some clothes and hang them up, and they just won't dry. They just won't dry at all. So my shirts are beginning to smell rather, well, a bit musty, really. I'm also becoming a bit of an expert on American wildlife, most of which is road casualties. In my estimation, American wildlife is flat and smelly. There are loads of squashed raccoons on the side of the road. I suppose it's the spring, perhaps they're youngsters. I've seen the occasional snake, and there are also tortoises. I didn't know America had tortoises, but there are lots of tortoises. They get squashed as well. I suppose they're the sort of American equivalent of a hedgehog, a classic sort of squashed tortoise. The saddest thing I saw was a possum. Now, they carry their young on their back, and there was this possum there, and the mother had been hit. And I guess a couple of the young had been hit as well, but clearly lots of the others had just hung around and died at the side of the road beside their hit mother. It was rather sad, that. Rather sad. I'm in the tent at the end of my second day on the trail. I'm at a place called the Lone Elm Campground. I mean, it's not a campground now, it's just a farm. And I'm staying in a farmer's field with the horses grazing near there. But it used to be the place where the wagon trains would stop for their first night after leaving Independence Landing. And it's already taken me 2 days to do what it took them 1 day to do with an ox wagon. So not really very good progress. I stopped for lunch at a sort of campground, a sort of picnic area really. Just lots of benches and so on. They allow people to camp here. It's just underneath the dam of Lake Clinton. Still in Kansas, about 4 days out. And there were taps but no buckets. So I went over and asked a guy who was sleeping under a tree, sitting by a pickup truck surrounded by junk, very old pickup truck, wearing shorts. He was lying on a bed parked under the tree. And I asked him if I could borrow a pot to drink the horses, and he said yeah. Turns out he's a roofing contractor. Lives a lot like this, sort of on the road. My name's Dylan.
Rick Job, glad to meet you.
Rick Job.
Job, just like in the Bible, you just put an E on it.
Why are you here today, in this campground?
This campground, I was waiting on my crew this morning to go to work. I do roofing here in town.
Steady up, guys, steady up.
Me and my uncle, we follow hailstorms and
What do you mean you follow
hurricanes.
hailstorms?
Well, like there's no work back home, and you check out the newspapers, you hear of a hailstorm between anywhere from March to about June. And when the hail hits, it tears up the whole town usually, the roofing. And so the roofing's good, so you just get off one house right on another and just keep roofing continuously.
So there's a huge amount of work up here at the moment?
Oh yeah.
When was the storm? When did the storm come through here?
I think about 2 months ago. I found out from a friend of mine that follows storms also. He was down in Shreveport, Louisiana, working, but they wasn't paying no money down there.
And you haven't got a tent?
I sleep out in the open.
What happens if it rains?
I get set in the truck, be in here, I go stay in the bathroom till it's over with.
You sit in the bathroom?
Yeah, there's a bathroom right over there.
You sit on the john while it's raining?
Well, sometimes.
In some ways you're sort of following bad news, aren't you?
Well, to a certain extent. Of course, we don't want anybody to get killed or anything, but that's what happens with hurricanes. I don't work tornadoes, seldom, because it takes too long to build a house back, to get the roof to do. I worked one in, it was 79. I went up to, now I've not always done this. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked the hurricanes with my dad in Corpus Christi. Then I got married in 73 and divorced in 80. And during that length of time, I didn't follow storms. I was in sales. I was vacuum cleaners, sewing machines, insurance.
But you've been doing this for the last 10 years now?
I've just been following a storm now for these storms about the last 4, steady.
Is it a good life?
It's got its ups, it's got its downs. But
What are the ups?
Well, a pocket full of money, go out whenever you want to, and of course being single.
What do you do with a pocket full of money when you've got
Spend it.
Where?
Spend it.
Where?
Oh, at the bars, I send money to my kids, and I buy them horses and barrel racing saddles, $600, whatever they want, they're going to get it.
And do you go on holiday anywhere?
This is a holiday.
This is a holiday?
Yeah, it's wherever I work is a holiday.
You enjoy it?
Yeah. Besides that, if I don't want to get up that morning, I don't get up.
So what's the downside? Then?
I would imagine the downside would be not having a relationship with my children and getting married, again. And it's hard to, pick up here, meet a girl, and then I might be gone to Amarillo, Texas, or Phoenix, Arizona, or something for another storm.
Where are you going to be in 10 years' time? Still following the storm?
I hope not, but if I am, I am,
A really rotten start to the morning. I came down to feed the horses. I'm staying at this lovely big house. I came down to feed the horses, offered them a bucket of feed apiece in the field, and stood there between them to make sure they didn't steal from each other. And then someone just came by and I just stood up, went over and said good morning, and the 2 horses started kicking each other, fighting over the remains of the feed in one of the buckets. And unfortunately Rocky got the worst of it, and he's got a really bad, horrible gash in his leg. Horrible gash. I figured that something like this might happen at some stage in the trip, but not in the first week. Not in the first week. Didn't want that to happen. I didn't want that to happen. The vet's on his way out, and he's going to tell me what's up with him. Hello. Hi, my name's Dylan Winthrop. Sorry to call you out this way.
Oh, that's all right.
Tim Lavin.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
3 vets. Is this coming expensive then? Is it going to cost the BBC a fortune, is it? People do let your cars bully you, don't you?
We had our cars bully us?
Yeah, I mean, your car, it says shut the door, shut the door. Or it says, yeah, so turn the light off or something.
Once we got all the blood washed off down, it doesn't look as bad. I don't think it's going to take it anywhere.
Basically, what happened was I was feeding them down there, down in the field, and I was standing between them, and I just sort of took my eye off the ball for a minute, and they turned around and had a crack at each other. Never been any sign of aggression. It's my own stupid fault.
Did that, huh?
No, it was the other horse down there.
Kind of interesting cut.
It's an interesting cut. Is it more than one place there?
I don't know yet. I don't believe so.
I think it's just that one up the top there, is it?
Why don't you give me a bucket of water, Tim?
It was bleeding a lot initially, but...
I don't know. Just a little puncture wound is all that is right there. Huh. It's kind of interesting. There is a vein, artery, and nerve that goes right down along the sesamoids.
Just along the back of his foot there?
On both sides, right through here.
Yeah.
And what he did is, with that little small puncture, he hit that vein or artery. If it bled as much as I see, it probably hit that artery.
At a guess, how long's he going to be off?
10 days.
10 days.
Yeah, and the reason 10 days is you have damaged an artery that's bleeding, and I'm going to suture the hole shut today to keep that bleeding down. You're going to put a wrap on it. You're going to get a lot of swelling. There's some swelling there now. You got a lot of bruising on the backside of the fetlock and the pastern from the kick. The bruising is going to cause more problems than the hole causing the bleeding. The bruising itself, you're going to put them on some anti-inflammatories, phenylbutazone, 2 tablets once a day for 7 days. 3 days after that.